You're watching the 2025 SCAC Fall Media Days. Today, we're taking a dive into the McMurry football program. The Warhawks will once again be led as they head into the season under the guidance of head coach Jordan Neal, along with leadership from junior quarterback Jess Hoel and senior defensive back Kimani Smith. And Coach Kimani and Jess, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Coach, we'll open things up with you. This is a program coming off of an outstanding season a year ago. Most wins in the program since 2012 with 7, a co-SCAC championship, success on all three phases. It's an offense that led the SCAC in terms of yards per game, second points per game, defensively, held opponents to the fewest yards in all of the SCAC. So a lot of positives from last year. How do you build off of the momentum from last season going into 2025, and just how fired up are you to be back here at the start of a new year?
Well, we're definitely fired up, that's for sure. It's a great time of year. We've got almost 2 weeks of fall camp under our belt, and it's just been awesome to be around our players again. Everybody has to kind of scatter and go their own way over the summer, and just having everybody here is really gratifying, for me and for our coaches. And then obviously when you bring in your newcomers, it's such a mountain of work to get one player, you know, enrolled and get their financial aid process, wrapped up and get their deposit done, registered for classes, and just kind of knowing what keys go into what doors. And so it's a massive amount of work, but it's a really, really fun time of year. And I'm very excited about this team. It's a different team. We had some really good players and some great senior leadership from 2024 that is no longer here. But I think a huge narrative for us and a storyline that you're going to kind of see play out with our team this year is there's really been a standard of excellence that's been set by the people that have come before. And Kimani is a good example of this. He's a guy that's played a lot of football for us ever since he was a freshman, and he was a captain last year, and here he is as a senior. We don't have as large of a senior class as we had last year. Last year's senior class was kind of the traditional 4-year guys plus a handful of COVID redshirt guys. So it was a little bit larger by respect of that. But the days of us having 4 or 5 or 7, seniors, we feel like we're past those days because we've been able to retain and we've been able to give guys a reason to want to, play here in the first place, to stay here, to win here, and to graduate from here. And so it's a new team, new class, new year. But I think given the success that we've had, especially over the last 2 years, and to be able to win a conference championship and put a ring on their finger, and just to get that sensation, it's very addictive, and it's an expectation that these players have. And I also think that we're as talented, if not more talented, than we've ever been, even in spite of losing some really good players. Last year we had the defensive player of the year in the league in Kane Stroman, and we had our all-time leading receiver in Chris Martin, who's now graduated, and that leaves a big hole. And then we had a first-team All-American safety in Tim Leatherman. And so those are the big three. There's quite a few other guys that played tremendous roles for us that made all-conference and have been very successful. And they've opened up a gap and opened up a door for new players to step in. But as far as the talent perspective goes, we feel like we're bigger, we're faster, we're stronger, we've got more knockback power, and we feel like we're going to be deeper. And that's such a huge key to success, especially late in the season, is being able to have next man up and ready in case somebody goes down, and not have a drop off in production between your, what you would call a starter and your backup or so forth. But it's a great bunch of guys. We've been working really hard, and we're just excited about what's to come.
Jess, you're coming off of a fabulous season a year ago. You were named co-SCAC Offensive Player of the Year. As the quarterback of this group, you led this offense, as I mentioned with Coach, first in terms of yards per game, second in terms of points per game. You've now reached the third all-time in McMurry football history, both in terms of total yards, and you cracked over 5,000 yards in total passing last year. To move into third in that spot as well. I'm intrigued in how you kind of handle the pressure of returning after having the success that you've had for these first couple of seasons. How do you handle those expectations, and just ultimately, how fired up are you to be here at the start of this season and heading into a new campaign?
In terms of the expectations, I don't necessarily pay much attention to it because, it's it's just another deal. Yeah, it's cool to see, get the recognition, whatever. But I mean, I'm also surrounded by guys that aren't getting the recognition they deserve, and so it's something that you just got to take that into consideration as well. But being fired up about this team, like Coach Neal said, like that's an understatement. I think we're extremely talented. We got a lot of new faces and a lot of guys who can come in and help from the jump, and I think that's something that we've built on and we've been dreaming about for a while, and it's fun to see it unravel.
Kimani, coming into this year, Coach talks about your growth and how proud he is of your movement within this team and filling bigger roles. This is a group that, as we talked about, 6 wins 2 years ago, 7 last season. A lot of excitement coming into your senior year. What's your mindset as one of the leaders with this group? And as a leader, how are you kind of filling that role with some of these younger players in the secondary and on that defensive side to bring them up to speed and get them ready for 2025?
Yes, yes, sir. It's been just an honor to even get the role to, be named a captain for my senior year going into this year. Ever since my freshman year, these days are kind of the days that I've been dreaming about, and to actually be able to see that role play out, you can ask the guys on the team, you can ask Jess right here, Coach Neal. They can see me in the role, they see me fired up every day. I'm one of the guys that can actually, go out there and show my leadership, which is one of the things that, I've kind of been wanting to do, and it's so awesome to see the guys, underclassmen and even my peers, senior peers, just be there with me, and so we could all see this thing, go very much up. So it's just been a great, even in the spring off season, all the way up until now, just to have everybody under my wing and that captain role. It's a big difference now, and I know it's a great expectations held under me and Jess as well, but I know we can both get it done for sure.
Coach, it's fun to think about. How each team is different, obviously, in each season. But going into year 7 now, we talk about all the building that's happened within this program. What's different when you think about this roster versus when you first arrived on campus a number of years ago? Do you see stark differences? And just what have you learned about this specific group that excites you going into year 7?
Well, if you compare it to 7 years ago, there's just absolutely no comparison whatsoever. And that's not to, to denigrate or to be down on those guys that we inherited. But there's just a lot that goes into, a relationship between a coach and a player when it comes to recruiting them, getting to know their families, just all of the work that it takes to get them here, and not only get them here, but to teach them and to, lay out the expectations that you have for them, and for them to buy into those things and grow and just kind of grow into the roles that you envision for them to be in. And so it's really a night and day difference. I feel like we made a huge turn 2 seasons ago in terms of we just were a really, really hungry bunch of guys. I mean, we kind of had a turning point in our season 2 years ago against Howard Payne. They were coming into our place, and our guys were just, for whatever reason, they were foaming at the mouth to play that ball game. And since that time, we have not been out of a possession in any ball game. And so that carried on through the season last year. And to have an expectation to take the field and win every game is not something that we could take for granted when I first got here. And so it's been a lot of work. We had to go through the COVID stuff, and that set everybody back in different ways. But at this point, we feel like we've established a new standard of excellence. There's an expectation to go out not only and win, but we feel like we can dominate and that we can play lockdown, defensive play. You've seen that the last 2 seasons, stopping the run. We've got some guys that can man cover, which does a lot of things for your defense. And so just have the utmost confidence in those guys, and then offensively, progressively, we've gotten better on the offensive line. And the skill players we've never really lacked in terms of speed and athleticism and playmaking ability, but just really developing our system and getting guys in the right timing with the quarterback, and that's something that these guys work on a lot on their own. And those are things that just within the scope of a practice we can't really accomplish. That's something that the players have to take ownership on their own. And Jess is that guy. I mean, he's one of the first ones in and one of the last ones to leave every day. And when you get that kind of example and that kind of consistency from your quarterback, it just makes such a huge, huge difference. And so, yeah, new team, new collection, new. We're baking a new cake, and the formula may not change, but no two cakes are exactly alike. And I happen to really like the combination of players that we got this year, and very excited to see what they're going to accomplish.
Jess, I'm interested what areas of focus you have in terms of improvement for this offense going into this season. What's pushing this offensive group heading into 2025? And kind of how have you seen your role change sort of within the offensive unit over these last couple of years coming into your junior season?
I think coming into this season, it's about consistency. Like last season, we showed in several spurts like how explosive and dangerous we could be, but there was also some times where we kind of struggle in situations we shouldn't have. So I think it comes down to consistency. And as far as my role goes, I mean, it's just one of those things that as you get older, guys tend to follow just a little bit easier and stuff like that. So I can get out front and really kind of voice my opinion and kind of get guys behind and just lead the way. And whether that's leading by example or word of mouth, whatever it is, and it just makes the job a little easier, especially for the coaches, especially when you have somebody on the field who can kind of be the general manager and kind of get guys lined up and we can play with tempo and stuff like that. But for coming into this season, I think the biggest deal for us as an offense, like as a whole, it's just about consistency, whether it's up front, getting to the right depth, or even myself, like making the right reads, stuff like that. That's what I think it comes down to.
Kimani, every season obviously is super exciting, but this year in the SCAC, we're fired up with the introduction of the SCAC Championship Series weekend. It's a unique opportunity in Division III. All 6 SCAC teams that gathered there at War Memorial in November for the SCAC Championship weekend. Is that something this team is talking about? Is that something that's kind of adding juice at the start of this season? And just can you speak to what that opportunity would mean for this program to have the chance to play in an SCAC title game?
Yes, sir. Of course. When Coach Neal first told us about this deal, obviously it's something new compared to what we did in the SCAC last year. And obviously being the co-champions kind of left a little bit of a bad taste in a lot of our mouths. So actually having that championship type of game, which is the game that we already have our mindset on, obviously. But like when Coach Neal told us, I just said, it was just that fire that kind of lit in us again. It gave us another something of that we wanted, like a sense of more hunger, you know what I mean? So it just gave us that extra urge to go out there and want to do it some more, especially after last year just being co-champs. So yeah.
Coach, you talked a little bit about kind of the gratitude that you have in organizing and getting a team ready for the start of the season. I'm just interested, what is the most rewarding part of preparing a group to head into a new season, and how much do you enjoy that preparation part ahead of the start of the kickoff?
Well, I have a lot of different one-liners and a lot of different sayings, and I'm a big mentality guy, and I like to coach mental toughness. It's extremely gratifying when you see, and there's no way to measure this necessarily. You can't put a number to it, but when you can see subjectively that your players are becoming more mentally tough and also more physically tough as an extension. When you see them really kind of get the essence of your message as a coach, and these guys have done that, that's really fun whenever that tuning fork goes off and that rings true. And one of my sayings is, prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. So, if anybody ever asks me before a game or during the week, say, "Are you ready?" I say, "Well, I'm getting ready." And then you can ask me if I'm ready 1 second before the kickoff, and I'll tell you then I'm ready. Preparation. I was an Eagle Scout, and so like the motto of the Scout is to be prepared, and that is really what we spend most of our time doing for relatively few moments on the field, and even fewer like critical moments, which any play can be critical. And they are, but when it's fourth down and inches, you got to make a first down or you're trying to stop somebody. There's so few of those moments, and so the time that you spend in preparation and just the process of that, and the relationship that develops through doing that with your fellow coaches and your players, that's really the thing that gets me out of bed and makes me spring out of bed and want to race to the field house every morning. Both of these guys are really good examples of that. Jess is going into his third year at the helm at quarterback for us, and it gets really fun as a play caller when your quarterback, you're not speaking Chinese to him, and he knows where the ball is kind of trying to go. Kimani's a great example of that, and there's a baker's dozen others that I could point to. Terms of, you just have a lot of confidence as a coach when you see a player out there that the moments aren't going to be too big for them because they've been in them before. We've experienced highs and exalt, in certain situations, and we've experienced some lows too. I don't think your relationship with your players can go as deep as it really needs to, and you don't get the full effect unless you've kind of been through some hard things, whether that's personally and certainly out on the field. Um, so we just feel like we're a really tight knit group of guys, and that's I think that's going to that's going to be a huge edge for our team this year.
Finally, as we wrap up with our two student athletes, when classmates and peers of yours across campus and fans and supporters of this program here, McMurry University football, what would you hope that they associate when they sort of hear that? And for the two of you, what are some of the goals that you have? Obviously, Jess on the offensive side, Kimani on the defensive side for your units heading into this.
As it comes down to it, I mean, we have four priorities or program priorities, we call them, and it's honor God, honor family, academic excellence, and be a team. And so, like, as you step into the community, I mean, those are the four that we represent, especially when we have the McMurry across our chest. But as an expectation of what we can expect this season is we want it to be a fireworks show. I mean, we want to throw the ball deep, we want to run, we want to be efficient with everything we do. And I think that's really our game plan is just we're going to be really good at what we do, and our bag's going to be really deep.
Yes, sir. And then just to support Jess in the community, we kind of want them to understand our four program priorities, like he said, honor God, honor family, academics, excellence, and be a team. So just things like that out there in the community. We want them to also see that, even when we're not on campus, outside on the field wearing our McMurray, we kind of try to show that to the team. Like we're representing a brand here at McMurray, you know what I mean? And it's kind of a different type of deal. We step with a different type of swagger over here. So it's kind of like what you got to roll with, you know what I mean? So yes, sir. And then also the expectations out of the defense as a captain, just going in also under new leadership with Coach Washington. It's a kind of a little bit of a different look within our defense, but it's something that, we're playing fast. We got a lot of physical, fast guys. It's a speed type of defense. We have players that want to go out there and be aggressive, make a lot of plays, and we have a lot of playmakers that can do that. So that's what you can expect out of us.
And finally, Coach, we'll wrap up with you, giving you the last word, just as we set the table here for this 2025 season for all the McMurry fans out there. What have we missed? What do you need them to know? And just what are you, the most fired up about as you get ready to take the field here in just a couple of weeks?
Yeah. Well, first of all, and these guys, they're not, they're not robots. These guys are not, trained to talk about our program priorities, but they understand and they know how important those things are, and that's why they're priorities. Those are the things that we want to operate from a first principles standpoint, and we do. We want to be a program that does things the right way, and we want to be known for that. We don't want to have a reputation as being a dirty team or a group of guys that aren't gentlemen, but are fierce competitors. So that's what we mean when we say honor God. And this is a family environment. McMurry is a very unique place in terms of our alumni and the people that support us and that are behind us. It's a family within the team, and these guys are brothers, and they really hold each other up and lift each other up and are there for each other whenever somebody's down. And then, these guys are here to get an education, and there's a difference between getting an education and a degree. We want them to have the degree, but we want them to leave out of this place as autonomous, critical thinkers and people that can problem solve. And because they're going to be starting their own businesses one day. They're going to be head coaches. They're going to be attorneys. They're going to be doctors and so forth and so on. And so the academic piece of things, we don't flip the switch off in terms of competitive greatness from the field to the classroom. These guys are as competitive in the classroom as they are over here on the field. And then the team dynamic is so important to us. And we understand that together everyone achieves more, and we don't get to where we want to go because we have an outstanding quarterback, or just because we have a couple of key guys here and there on defense like Kimani. It's a total effort. It's every coach, it's every student coach, it's our trainer, it's our athletic director, Coach Doc, who supports us and is our biggest fan. And then obviously it's the players on the field, the 11 that are out there on offense, defense, and special teams that really make the difference. So our program priorities is what we want to be known for. And we want people to see something different about our program that's unique and that's not just run of the mill. and we want to be fun to watch, like Jess kind of alluded to. We want to light things up, and we want to be an entertaining bunch to play with passion and go out there and dominate and give people a reason to want to sit in the stands and if they go down to the bathroom, during a series, they're going to miss something. We want to be a fun group of guys to watch and be a dominant outfit. Lastly, I would say, our theme for this season is unfinished business. Been telling anybody that asks me how's the football team and what's the outlook, I say, we felt like we left some meat on the bone last season. We're a play away from, a big win against a top 5 team in Hardin-Simmons. We've been knocking on that door. We're ready to bust through that glass ceiling. I know that's a non-conference game for us. We've got a home opener against Southwestern on brand new turf, and the turf is pretty radical. It's pretty sweet. It's brand new, so we're really proud to get to defend that new and improved Wilford Moore Stadium. But we feel like we've got a real opportunity this season to tie up some loose ends and some things that were a little bit dissatisfactory from last season. We feel like we've got an opportunity to capitalize and fix those things. So we're very, very hungry. We're excited about this season, and we can't wait to get it going. We're excited about the conference championship program and the way that's all set up. And we've been to War Memorial Stadium and played there twice, so that's going to be not a new experience for a lot of our players. And we intend to be in that championship game with an opportunity to go to the playoffs.
McMurry University head football coach Jordan Neal, along with leadership from Jess Hoel and Kimani Smith. Coach Neal and the Warhawks will open up that 2020-25 campaign at home against Southwestern on September 6th. Coach Jess, Kimani, thanks so much for your time today, and best of luck as you march forward throughout the 2025 season.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.